welcome. I'm truly grateful to have you here. Please, make yourself comfortable and take your time. This story was crafted with care, dedication, and deep respect for your attention. I hope it brings you joy, reflection, and perhaps even a touch of nostalgia. Once again, thank you for sharing a moment of your day with me. The year is 1347. You wake up in the middle of a medieval winter. The first thing that hits you isn't the biting cold, though it creeps under your thin wool blanket like a thief. No, it's the smell. A thick, almost physical wall of ammonia and damp, decaying straw, laced with something deeper, more organic, the undeniable funk of unwashed animal and human alike. It clings to your clothes, your hair, even the inside of your mouth, making your stomach clench. You try to take a deep breath, but it just fills your lungs with that oppressive earthy reek. You push yourself up, feeling the dull ache in your lower back from sleeping on the rough, uneven ground. Your eyes strain in the pre-dawn gloom, slowly making out the vague, hulking shapes of horses in their stalls around you. Their rhythmic breathing, a soft, raspy sound, fills the stable, punctuated by the occasional snort or the shifting of hooves on packed earth. A draft, icy and persistent, whispers through the gaps in the wooden walls, raising goosebumps on your arms. You reach for the heavy, coarse tunic draped nearby, pulling it over your head, feeling the grit of straw still clinging to its rough fabric. Outside, a rooster crows, a ragged, protesting sound that only emphasizes the deep, enduring darkness of the morning. You stand, your joints protesting with a low groan, and walk slowly towards the stable door, each step a small crunch on the scattered straw and dried dung. The air is heavy, a tangible weight that seems to press down on your shoulders. You pass by a mare, her head lowered, her eyes half closed, a plume of steamy breath rising from her nostrils. You reach out, your fingers brushing against her coarse mane, a brief moment of quiet connection in the bustling, stinking world of the stable. The sheer scale of everything here, the work, the waste, the constant grinding presence of life and decay, it demands an endurance you sometimes feel you just don't have. You push the heavy wooden door open, just a crack, letting in a sliver of pale, unforgiving gray light, and the morning air, though cold, feels almost fresh by comparison. If this story resonates with you, please like and subscribe. I'm curious, where in the world are you listening from, and what time is it there? Share in the comments. It's strange, isn't it, how the smallest, most constant discomforts can shape your day, your very existence, more profoundly than any grand challenge. The biting wind slaps your face the moment you step out of the stable, but it's the immediate, brutal chill against your bare hands that truly stings. You grasp the rough wooden handle of the pitchfork, the cold seeping right through the worn leather of your gloves, making your fingers stiffen almost instantly. There's a dull clang from nearby as someone else wrestles with heavy buckets, and the sound echoes, sharp and brief, in the frigid air. You push into the enormous pile of muck, feeling the satisfying resistance as the tines bite deep into the compressed straw and dung, a heavy, earthy smell rising with each movement, distinct from the stale, stable air. Your muscles, already protesting from the night's sleep, stretch and pull with the effort, a low, persistent ache settling in your shoulders. You haul the heavy, reeking forkful, slinging it into the waiting cart with a grunt that escapes your lips as a puff of white mist. Again and again, the rhythm is relentless. Stab, lift, toss. Each movement demands your full attention. a practical meditation of physical strain. Your breath comes in ragged, steamy gasps, and a thin sheen of sweat begins to prickle on your brow, despite the freezing temperature. Your hands ache, calloused and scraped, the rough wood chafing against your skin, leaving splinters despite your care. This isn't the weight of a polished sword hilt you're familiar with, nor the crisp, cool feel of chainmail. No, this is the raw, gritty, undeniable weight of sustenance, of survival. It's the work that keeps everyone fed, the horses strong, and the land productive. Around you, other figures move with similar, determined purpose, shadows in the weak light of dawn. A stable hand, face ruddy from the cold, shoulders a large sack of oats, the coarse fabric brushing against your arm as he passes. He gives you a quick, shared look of weary understanding, a grimace that speaks volumes without a single word. You watch as another man struggles to lead a massive destrier, its sheer power evident in the way it strains against the reins, its hooves churning the mud. This magnificent animal is your charge, the true engine of any fighting force, and keeping it healthy, fed, and ready demands far more strength and unwavering attention than any personal weapon. You are its guardian, its feeder, its cleaner. Its very existence relies entirely on the iron you wield now. The heavy shovels, the sturdy pitchforks, the rough tools of the groom's trade, not the fine, tempered steel of a blade forged for glory. Your mind drifts, not to imagined glory or the clang of battle, but to the endless, immediate list of tasks. Mending a broken bridle before it snaps mid-ride, sharpening a blunted axe for chopping the next load of firewood, clearing another clogged drain to prevent illness. These are your true battles, fought with blistered hands and aching backs. The true weight you carry isn't the expectation of heroic combat, but the cold, hard, unyielding reality of constant physical labor, the ceaseless maintenance of a fragile, demanding world. It's the silent, steady effort that keeps the whole manor running, day after brutal day, a foundation built on sweat and persistence. This is the iron that truly defines your world, forging you with every swing and every lift. The sharp, metallic tang of iron fills your nostrils as the first piece is pressed against your chest, cold and unyielding through the padded gambeson you already wear. It's not a comforting cold, but a deep, penetrating chill that seems to sink into your bones, despite the layers of wool and linen beneath. You feel the weight immediately, a sudden, unfamiliar pressure settling on your shoulders, pushing you down just a fraction. A squire, his breath visible in the cold air, adjusts a strap behind you, pulling it tight with a grunt. The leather creaks, straining, and you feel the restriction as the front plate is cinched firmly into place. Your breathing changes instantly, becoming shallower, more conscious. Next, the arm harness. You extend an arm, feeling the precise, practiced movements of the attendant as he slots the steel over your elbow and forearm. A clatter, a soft click, and then another layer of heavy, inflexible metal envelops you. You try to bend your arm, testing the newfound rigidity, and the plates slide with a dry, grinding whisper, an unfamiliar friction. Your movements are no longer fluid. They are deliberate, mechanical, each action requiring a conscious effort against the resistance of the steel. The world feels strangely muffled, distant, as if you're experiencing it through a thick, metallic shell. The leg and thigh pieces follow, each adding to the formidable, growing burden. You feel the chafing of the padded undergarments, already starting to warm with your body heat, but the steel remains a cool barrier. The weight accumulates, pressing down on your knees, your hips, rooting you to the spot. Standing becomes an exercise in balance, your center of gravity shifted by the sheer mass strapped to your frame. You watch your own hands, now encased in articulated gauntlets, looking more like a blacksmith's tools than your own flesh and blood. When you clench a fist, the metal fingers click, an alien sound. The anticipation of battle, often imagined with a light heart, now feels like a solid, heavy thing, settled deep within this metallic skin. Finally, the helmet. It's lowered over your head, and the world shrinks. The sounds of the arming tent, the hushed commands, the rustle of fabric, the distant clang of a hammer from the forge, become faint echoes. Your vision narrows, funneled through the thin slits of the visor, creating a tunnel effect. The air inside is instantly warmer, close, and carries the faint metallic scent of the polished steel itself. You turn your head, testing the range of motion, and feel the cold rim of the helmet press against your cheek, the heavy weight threatening to pull your neck down. The armor isn't merely a shield, it's a second skin, a suit that both protects and imprisons, transforming you into something less human, more machine. Every breath, every shift of weight, every slight adjustment is a reminder of the monumental, undeniable presence of the iron, not as a weapon wielded, but as a burden endured. It's in moments like these, encased in such unyielding steel, that you truly understand the cost of being a protector, the raw physical toll that precedes any glory or despair on the battlefield. The air inside your helmet quickly grows thick, heavy, tasting of stale breath and the metallic tang of the steel itself. It's not just the weight now, but the relentless rising heat. You feel the first trickles of sweat trace paths down your temples, warm and itchy beneath the padded coif, a prelude to the drenching to come. Every breath becomes a conscious effort, a shallow gasp that pulls the same hot air into your lungs, a cycle of increasing internal temperature. Your heart starts to thud, not from fear yet, but from the sheer exertion of existing within this iron shell, the sound amplified and distorted within the confines of your chest plate. You try to move, to shift your weight, and the plates groan, a dry metallic whisper that seems to mock your every struggle. Each step is a deliberate, monumental act, your knees aching under the crushing burden. You feel your muscles scream, protesting with every lift of a leg, every swing of an arm. This isn't just carrying weight, it's fighting against it. Constantly, your body locked in an endless, silent wrestle. The padded layers beneath the armor, once a comfort against the cold steel, now feel like a suffocating blanket, soaking up the sweat that now pours down your back, stinging your eyes, making the leather straps chafe against your skin. The outside world shrinks, muffled and distant. Sounds become indistinct hums, and the vibrant colors of the morning fade into a muted, tunneled view through the narrow eye slits of your visor. Your peripheral vision is gone, replaced by the dark, unyielding steel. You can barely turn your head without wrenching your neck, so you compensate with your whole body, a slow, ponderous rotation. This isn't protection. It's a form of sensory deprivation, a deliberate isolation that sharpens your focus on the raw physical discomfort. You swallow, your throat dry despite the internal moisture. the heat now a suffocating presence, making you feel as though you're slowly cooking inside your own skin. A sudden, unexpected shift in the uneven ground makes you stumble, a lurch that sends a jolt of panic through you. For a terrifying moment you feel utterly helpless, the weight threatening to pull you down, to pin you to the earth like an overturned beetle. The thought of falling, of being trapped, unable to right yourself, unable to breathe, is a cold dread that cuts through the heat. You regain your footing with a grunt, your chest heaving, but the fear lingers, a stark reminder of the fragile line between protection and prison. This armor, designed to save your life, could just as easily claim it, not with a blade, but with the relentless, unyielding pressure of its own embrace. It's a walking furnace, yes, but also a drowning trap, constantly reminding you that your greatest enemy might just be the very suit you wear. The warm, moist breath of the destrier washes over your face. A powerful, earthy scent distinct from the general stable funk. You hear the soft, rumbling wicker deep in its chest, a low vibration that seems to travel through the ground beneath your armored feet. Its immense flank, a rippling tapestry of muscle, stands before you, a living wall of power. A squire holds the stirrup steady, but even with his assistance, mounting this beast in full armor is a monumental task. You grasp the thick, worn leather of the saddle horn, the grip solid and familiar under your heavy, gauntleted hand. With a guttural heave, pushing off the ground, your leg, encased in layers of steel, swings up. The greave clanks against the stirrup with a sharp, metallic ring as you find purchase. Then you hoist yourself, with another grunting effort, fully into the saddle, settling with a deep sigh that fogs the air inside your helmet. The worn leather creaks beneath you, protesting the added weight. The world instantly changes from this new, formidable height. You feel the undeniable thrum of immense power beneath you, a living engine of bone and muscle, vibrating with barely contained energy. The destrier shifts its weight, a subtle tremor running through your entire armored body, and you realize you are now part of something far larger, far stronger, and infinitely more primal than yourself. The thick reins feel substantial, cool and smooth leather against your metal gloves, the precise texture of familiar comfort. A slight, almost imperceptible pressure on them, a whisper of direction, and you feel the powerful head respond, turning obediently, its ears flicking back, listening for your next command. This isn't just an animal. It's a carefully trained, incredibly powerful partner, whose very life and effectiveness are as crucial as your own. Its life is in your hands, its strength is yours to command. You nudge its massive flanks with your armored heels, a soft, familiar command, and the great horse takes a slow, ponderous step. The movement is not graceful in the way a lighter mount might be, but it's immensely powerful, each deliberate hoof fall, a ground-shaking thud that resonates up through the saddle, through your spine, and into your very core. The sheer momentum carries you forward, a sensation of being propelled by an unstoppable, organic force. Your body, rigid in its armor, sways slightly with the horse's rolling gait, demanding a constant, subtle balance, a deep core strength to remain centered. You grip the reins firmer, your attention wholly on the beast beneath you, on its steady breathing, its powerful rhythm, the subtle tension in its muscled neck. The scent of horse, leather, and fresh hay fills the air around you, a stark contrast to the stale odors of the stable floor. This isn't about drawing a sword. It's about guiding this colossal living battering ram, directing its raw, untamed strength, transforming it into a formidable instrument of war. The iron you wear means little without the raw power of this four-legged engine, this magnificent animal. It's the force that will carry you, absorb the shock of impact, and deliver you to where you need to be. You feel the subtle, powerful shift of its muscles as it prepares to move faster, the immense power held in check, waiting for your absolute, unwavering command. The true battle isn't won by a single blade, but by the coordinated, terrifying charge of these magnificent, terrifying animals, and for this crucial moment, you are its mind, its will, its very purpose on this earth. You are one with this thundering, breathing power. The soft, rhythmic thump-thump of your destrier's heart vibrates through the saddle, a powerful, steady drum against your armored legs. You run a gloved hand along its thick, muscled neck, feeling the warmth radiating from its skin, a stark contrast to the cold steel encasing you. Its powerful head, held high, scans the horizon with intelligent, dark eyes, its breath pluming in the crisp air. This animal isn't merely a beast of burden. It's a meticulously bred, exquisitely trained, and hugely expensive piece of living equipment. It represents years of investment, a small fortune in grain, specialized care, and the dedicated efforts of numerous stable hands and farriers. It is, in many ways, the most valuable asset you possess, far outweighing the cost of your own intricately crafted armor or even the lives of a dozen foot soldiers. You remember the endless hours spent training this creature, teaching it to stand firm against the din of battle, to charge into chaos without flinching, to obey the subtlest pressure of your knee or the whisper of your voice, even as arrows whizzed by and men shouted around it. This bond, forged in sweat and patience, is your true strength. A groom approaches, his face etched with concern, carefully wiping a smudge from the horse's flank with a soft cloth, his movements reverent, almost deferential. He checks the cinch, making sure the saddle sits perfectly, his hands nimble despite the cold. His gaze on the horse holds a deep respect, an understanding of its immense worth. He might be expendable, but this animal, never. Its health, its temperament, its very presence are paramount. The heavy ornate trappings, the decorated bridle, the strong leather reins, the elaborate saddle, aren't just for show. Each piece is crafted for maximum resilience, designed to withstand the brutal impacts of a charge, to keep this irreplaceable engine of war functioning. You feel the tension in its powerful legs, the readiness in its stance, a coiled spring of controlled power. Losing this horse means losing your mobility, your formidable impact, and potentially your life, bogged down in heavy armor on the ground. A dismounted knight is a crippled knight, and a crippled knight is often a dead one. The sheer cost of replacing such a beast is staggering, a financial blow that could cripple your lord for a season, or even a year. As you guide it forward, each deliberate step of its powerful hooves on the cold earth feels like a profound responsibility. You watch for uneven ground, for unseen obstacles, for anything that might cause a stumble, a twist, a fall. Your eyes constantly scan, not just for the enemy, but for the safety of your mount. You are not simply riding. You are protecting, guiding, preserving this immense, vital creature. Its life is tied to yours, but in a world where men are plentiful and well-trained destriers are rare and precious, its value often eclipses your own. It's a sobering thought, yet undeniably true. This four-legged partner, this magnificent animal, truly is more valuable than a man. The ground beneath your destrier's thundering hooves becomes a drum, each impact reverberating up your legs, through the saddle and into your very bones. You feel the surge of power beneath you, an unstoppable force hurtling forward. The distant, scattered shouts you heard moments ago coalesce into a single, terrifying roar, a human wave breaking against the wind. Then, the piercing shriek of a war horn cuts through the air, sharp and insistent, driving the charge harder, faster. You grip the reins, your gauntleted hands tightening, knuckles white beneath the steel, bracing for the inevitable. The wind whips past the narrow eye slits of your helmet, a cold, breathless rush before the storm. The world explodes into a chaotic symphony. First, the dull, sickening thud of horse against horse. A sound that shakes your entire frame, followed immediately by the splintering crack of wood as lances meet shields. You feel the jarring shock travel up your arm as your own lance, a heavy, unwieldy shaft, strikes something unseen, shattering with a violent recoil. The sheer force nearly unseats you, but your legs, anchored by years of training, hold firm. A deafening clang of steel on steel rings in your ears, a metallic scream. As the first wave breaks, you hear shouts, cries of pain, and the snorts of terrified horses, all blending into a guttural, primal chorus. Your destrier, a trained engine of war, plows relentlessly forward, its powerful body a living, battering ram, trampling and pushing through the confusion. The air is thick with dust, the metallic tang of blood, and the acrid smell of fear. Through the narrow slit of your visor you catch glimpses, a flash of enemy colors, the glint of a discarded helmet, a man falling beneath the churning hooves. You drop the splintered remains of your lance, reaching instinctively for the heavy, flanged mace hanging at your side. The weight is familiar, reassuring. You swing it in a wide, arcing motion, feeling the bone-jarring impact as it connects with something solid. Another metallic crash. The effort sends a fresh wave of sweat down your face, stinging your eyes, making your breath ragged inside the helmet. You are no longer thinking, only reacting, a part of this terrifying, grinding machine of combat. The press of bodies, human and animal, is relentless, a crushing vice that seeks to pull you down, to dislodge you from your powerful perch. Your horse struggles, pushing, biting, kicking, as desperate as you are to survive this chaotic embrace. The symphony of slaughter is deafening, a cacophony of fear, pain, and the unyielding will to prevail. The air inside your helmet grows hotter, thicker, heavy, with a reek of iron, sweat, and something far more visceral. You parry a crude, wild swing with your shield, the impact jarring your arm, rattling the plates of your armor. The sound of metal scraping against metal grates on your ears. A harsh, incessant grinding. You pivot your horse, urging it forward, trying to create space, to see past the chaos that surrounds you. Through the narrow slit of your visor, you see a flash of movement, a spear glinting, coming up from below, aimed at your horse's flank. Your heart leaps into your throat. You instinctively yank the reins, your destrier responding with a desperate snort, sidestepping violently. The spear misses the horse, but catches your leg, a glancing blow against the steel greave. The impact sends a dull thud through your armor, a painful vibration that leaves your knee aching. a reminder of the constant, brutal proximity of death. You bring your mace down not with a precise, elegant strike, but with a desperate, heavy swing born of raw adrenaline and fear. There's a sickening, born wet thud, followed by a sharp, cracking sound that cuts through the din of battle, unmistakably the sound of bone giving way. A dark, visceral spray of something warm and sticky splatters across your visor, obscuring your already limited vision further. The metallic tang of fresh blood fills your mouth, thick and coppery, even through the stifling air of your helmet. You feel a brief, grotesque moment of release as the pressure lessens, the enemy falling away. But there's no time to process, no time to even breathe properly. Another opponent emerges from the swirling melee, a blur of motion, weapon raised. Your horse, breathing heavily, its sides heaving, is still plunging, trying to break free from the suffocating press of bodies. You adjust your grip on the mace, the shaft slippery with sweat, your gauntlets still sticky with what you know is blood. Your muscles scream with exhaustion, each swing a monumental effort, each defensive block a painful jarring of your whole frame. The sheer physical toll is immense, beyond anything you could have imagined in training. This isn't a duel of honor or skill. It's a brutal, messy struggle for survival. A grinder of flesh and steel, where every second is a desperate fight to stay upright, to stay alive. Your vision tunnels, your breath comes in ragged gasps, and the world outside your armor is a horrifying tableau of anonymous limbs, flashing weapons, and the constant threat of a blow that could end it all. The real enemy isn't just the men you face. It's the exhaustion, the panic, the overwhelming noise, and the claustrophobia of your own iron shell. The fear isn't of a noble defeat, but of a messy, ignominious end. Trampled underfoot, drowned in your own armor, left for dead in the mud and the blood. And all around you, the terrifying, visceral sounds of impact, wet thuds, and cracks of bone echo the brutal reality of this gruesome dance. The colossal weight of the lance settles firmly in the crook of your arm, an extension of your body, but one that feels impossibly long and unwieldy. The thick, smooth oak shaft is cool against your gauntlet, its balance heavy towards the sharp, dark tip that seems to pierce the cold morning air ahead. Your right arm, locked at the shoulder, holds it steady, a rigid line pointing towards the distant, blurred enemy formation. The sheer momentum of your destrier's charge is building, each thunderous hoof-fall vibrating up through the saddle, a constant, powerful tremor that works its way through your armored frame. You feel the wind rushing past the narrow slits of your visor, carrying the faint metallic scent of distant steel and the acrid tang of fear. Your focus narrows, tunneled through the weight of the helmet, drawing all attention to that single piercing point of hardened iron. This isn't a weapon for parrying, for feints, or for the intricate dance of a sword fight. This is a weapon of raw, crushing impact, designed for one devastating strike. You keep your eyes fixed on a point, a gap in the enemy line, or perhaps just a general direction. Knowing precision is often a luxury lost in the chaos of a full-speed charge. You press your legs into your horse's flanks, a wordless command for more speed, more power, feeling its massive muscles coil and unleash beneath you, gathering unstoppable force. The ground rushes by, a blur of brown and gray, and the enemy grows larger, resolving from a distant mass into individual figures, faces, weapons raised. The final few yards are a terrifying acceleration. The roar of men, the screams of horses, the desperate clangs of alarm bells. It all coalesces into a single deafening wave of sound that washes over you, amplified and distorted within your steel confines. You brace your shoulders, locking every muscle, becoming a rigid, unyielding extension of your horse's charge. You don't aim with your wrist. You aim with your entire body, a living projectile. Then, with a sudden, bone-jarring impact that rattles your teeth and nearly rips the lance from your grip, it strikes. The sound is a sickening crunch, a wet thud, followed by the immediate, violent splintering of wood. The force of the blow throws your whole body forward, nearly unseating you, but you cling to the saddle, gasping for breath. The lance is gone, a useless shattered stump still clutched in your gauntlet, the wood rough and broken. The world instantly feels lighter, yet the chaotic press of battle has arrived, surrounding you. That one moment, that single devastating committed strike, is over. Its purpose served. Now, the battle shifts, and the real fight, a different kind of close-quarter horror, begins. The fleeting power of the lance, so overwhelming in its brief moment of glory, has given way to the relentless, grinding reality of sustained combat. It's a stark reminder that even the most powerful weapon is only a moment in the larger, bloody tapestry of war. The splintered shaft of the lance, now a useless stub, rips from your grasp with the force of the impact, leaving your right arm feeling suddenly unnervingly light. The enormous reach, the terrifying projection of power you held just a heartbeat ago, vanishes, leaving you feeling strangely truncated, exposed. The momentum of the charge, however, doesn't dissipate so easily. Your destrier barrels forward, pushing through a wave of disordered men, its massive body still a battering ram, but you are no longer the spearhead. The brief, devastating glory of that single, committed strike is over. Your gauntleted hand instinctively drops the useless wood and scrambles to your side, closing around the cold, textured grip of your warhammer. The weight is familiar, heavy, a solid reassurance after the sudden void left by the lance. This is your true workhorse weapon, designed for the brutal, grinding reality of close-quarters combat against armored foes. No elegant parries or sweeping slashes here. This is about blunt force trauma, about finding the weak points, the gaps in the enemy's steel, and delivering crushing blows. The air inside your helmet still fogs with your ragged breath, the metallic taste of adrenaline sharp on your tongue. You swing the hammer in a tight, forceful arc, the heavy head connecting with a sharp, resounding clang against the helmet. The shock travels up your arm, but you barely feel it, already bringing the weapon back for another strike. The melee is a suffocating press of bodies now, a swirling, desperate struggle. You are no longer flying across an open field, a symbol of unstoppable power. You are bogged down, fighting for every inch, every breath. Your massive horse struggling to maintain its footing, pushing through the desperate, flailing enemy. The world outside your visor is a dizzying blur of steel, desperate faces, and the constant, jarring impact of blows. This is the stark reality of the lance. One glorious, terrifying shot, and then it's gone. All that training, all that precise aiming, all that formidable power, expended in a single, irreversible moment. It's an all-or-nothing gamble, a commitment that immediately transforms the battlefield around you. You feel the vulnerability of having lost that primary reach, that initial overwhelming advantage. Now, you're in the thick of it, relying on the sheer brute force of your secondary weapon, the unwavering resilience of your armor, and the brute strength of your mount. The battle isn't about the grand, sweeping charge anymore. It's about the relentless, exhausting grind of survival, where every swing, every block, every push becomes a desperate prayer to the gods of war. The real fight, the long, bloody test of endurance, has truly begun. A sudden, sickening jolt throws you violently from the saddle. There's a wrenching pain in your side, a flash of white-hot agony, and then the world spins, a terrifying blur of mud, sky, and steel. The fall feels endless, a slow-motion tumble through the cacophony of battle, the ground rushing up to meet you with brutal speed. You hit the earth with a colossal suligadad, the impact rattling every plate of your armor, knocking the air from your lungs in a ragged gasp. For a heart-stopping moment, you are simply a heavy, inert mass, disoriented and winded. The metallic clang of your armor against the ground echoes in your ears, a hollow, desperate sound. The smell of damp, churned earth, mixed with fresh blood and horse sweat, is overwhelming, thick, and raw right beneath your visor. You feel the cold, slimy mud seep into the gaps of your armor, chilling your skin through the padded layers, a sudden, brutal intimacy with the battlefield. Your helmet is twisted, digging painfully into your jaw, further restricting your already tunneled vision. All you can see is a patch of gray, muddy sky, and the looming, distorted shapes of horse legs and armored boots churning around you, inches from your head. Panic, cold and sharp, begins to prickle at the edges of your awareness. You try to push yourself up, but the weight of the armor, once your shield, is now an unbearable, suffocating burden, pinning you to the ground. Your gauntleted hands sink into the mud, finding no purchase, no solid ground to lever yourself. Your legs, encased in steel, feel impossibly heavy, refusing to cooperate, sprawling awkwardly beneath you. The sounds of battle, the shouts, the clang of steel, the desperate cries, are amplified and distorted by your helmet, pressing in on you, making the air feel even thicker, harder to breathe. You strain, grunting with effort, trying to roll onto your side to gain some purchase. But it's like trying to move a stone effigy. You are helpless, a gilded beetle on its back, vulnerable to every passing foot, every swinging weapon. The fear isn't just of death, but of the indignity of it, of being crushed, overlooked, left to drown in the mud by the sheer unyielding weight of your own protection. A shadow falls over you, momentarily blocking the dull light, and you hear the scrape of a boot, unnervingly close. You can't see the face, only the vague, menacing shape. Your heart pounds against your ribs, a frantic drum against the unyielding steel of your chest plate. You are on the dirt, a target, your immense value and formidable presence utterly vanished, replaced by the stark, terrifying reality of being utterly dismounted, trapped in your own formidable crushing shell. The cold, wet mud against your skin is a stark, brutal reminder of your new, terrifying predicament. It's a strange thing, how the very weight designed to protect you can also become the heaviest anchor, dragging you down into the most ignoble end. The gritty, cold mud isn't just seeping into the cracks of your armor anymore, it's coating your tongue. Your helmet, twisted by the fall, presses uncomfortably against your cheek, forcing your mouth slightly open, and the foul-smelling earth has found its way in. Mixed with it is a distinct metallic tang, sharp and coppery, the unmistakable taste of blood, Whether your own or someone else's, you can't tell, and in this swirling chaos, it hardly matters. You try to spit, to clear your mouth, but the action is clumsy, ineffective, only spreading the sickening taste further. Each ragged breath you draw pulls in the heavy, fetid air, a suffocating mixture of battle dust, sweat, and gore. You strain again, your muscles screaming in protest, trying desperately to roll from your back onto your side. The weight of your armor, once your formidable defense, now feels like a tomb. It presses down on you with an unyielding, crushing force, embedding you deeper into the cold, wet soil. Your gauntleted hands claw at the mud, slick and useless, offering no purchase. You feel a sudden, sharp pain in your shoulder, a fresh ache from the fall, hot and throbbing beneath the steel plate. The sheer helplessness is a cold dread that spreads through your chest, tightening around your lungs, making it even harder to breathe. You are a giant, unmoving slug, an easy target for anyone passing by. Through the narrow, mud-streaked slits of your visor, the world is a blurred, terrifying landscape. Hooves thunder unsettlingly close, shaking the very ground beneath you, showering your helmet with fresh splashes of mud. You hear the sharp cate of a weapon impacting flesh, a guttural cry nearby, and the distinct, chilling sound of steel being dragged across the ground. Each noise is amplified, distorted, and menacing, pressing in on your senses, creating a suffocating bubble of sound and fear. You can't move, can't properly defend yourself. Reduced to a desperate, panting existence on the muddy floor, your only shield the unyielding, yet cumbersome, steel that encases you. The adrenaline that powered you moments ago is now draining, leaving you with a profound, bone-deep exhaustion. Your head pounds, your limbs feel numb beneath the crushing weight, and the internal heat of your armor, once a furnace, now feels like a slow, inescapable suffocation. You taste the mud again, gritty and foul, mixed with that persistent, metallic tang of blood, a bitter sacrament of your predicament. This isn't the glorious end of a warrior, but the ignoble, terrifying reality of being utterly undone, helpless and exposed, down in the dirt, waiting. The fight is no longer about striking blows, but about the desperate primal will to simply draw another breath, to survive this crushing, dirty hellscape. A searing, white-hot pain erupts in your side, making you gasp, a choked sound caught in your throat. It's not the dull ache of an old wound, but a fresh, burning torment that makes your entire body tense, your muscles clenching uncontrollably. You're lying on something rough, probably straw, the lingering smell of damp earth and stale blood still clinging to your nostrils, but now mixed with the pungent, acrid scent of some unidentifiable herbal concoction, and something else. A metallic, almost rusty smell that makes your stomach churn. Your head is throbbing, and your vision, still somewhat blurred, struggles to focus on the grim, focused face hovering above you. Rough, calloused hands press down firmly around the wound in your side, sending another jolt of agony through you. You bite down hard, tasting your own blood as the pressure intensifies. You can feel the coarse linen of a crude bandage being ripped away, exposing the raw, tender flesh beneath. The air, though cold, feels like 1,000 tiny needles against your exposed skin. A sharp, metallic glint flashes in your periphery, and you instinctively flinch, a desperate, futile movement, The hands hold you firm, unyielding, a quiet, almost clinical determination in their grip that offers no comfort, only an implacable will to fix you. Then comes the sting. It's not a gentle cleansing, but a brutal, fiery splash of liquid, likely some harsh wine or diluted vinegar, poured directly onto the open wound. You cry out, a raw, involuntary sound, your body arching in a futile attempt to escape the torment. Sweat beads instantly on your forehead, trickling down into your eyes, mingling with the sting of the antiseptic. You feel the scraping, a dull, agonizing sensation as something rough. A cloth, perhaps, or a small, crude blade is used to clean the edges of the gash. Each movement is slow, deliberate, a methodical torture designed for function, not for ease. You squeeze your eyes shut, trying to retreat into the darkness, but the pain is too vivid, too insistent, pulling you back to this agonizing reality. You hear the clatter of iron tools, a chilling sound in the quiet tent, and then feel the sharp, piercing pain as a thick needle pushes through your flesh, pulling the edges of the wound together with a rough thread. Each stitch is a fresh torment, a gasp escaping your lips with every pull, your hands clenching into fists, digging into the straw beneath you. There's no anesthetic here, no soft words of comfort, only the crude, essential work of a barber surgeon, his face impassive, his focus absolute. This is the cruel mercy of the battlefield, the cost of survival. This painful, meticulous attention to your shredded flesh feels far more intimate, far more violating, than any blow struck in battle. The cold iron of war might have brought the wound, but this sharp, burning, terrible care is what truly tests the resilience of your spirit. A dull, metallic scraping sound draws your eye, even through the haze of pain that still throbs from your freshly stitched wound. In the flickering candlelight, you see it, a short, thick rod of iron, its tip glowing an ominous, dull cherry red, pulsating with heat. Your breath hitches, catching in your throat. The barber surgeon, his face still a mask of grim determination, picks it up, tests its heat with a wet rag that sizzles and vanishes in a sudden puff of steam. Your heart thumps against your ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage, a desperate rhythm accelerating in your chest. You try to pull away, to twist your body, to escape the inevitable, but strong, calloused hands are already pressing down on your shoulders, your legs, holding you immobile on the rough straw. You gasp, a silent plea caught in your throat, and then you hear it, a faint hiss, like water on a hot stone, and the world explodes into searing agony. The smell hits you instantly, thick and horrifying. Burning hair, scorched flesh, a raw, primal stench that assaults your senses, making your stomach clench, bile rising in your throat. You scream, a sound that feels torn from the deepest part of your being, but it's muffled, swallowed by the roar in your ears, the internal scream of pure, unadulterated pain. Your entire body seizes, every muscle locked in a desperate, futile struggle against the hands that hold you, against the burning torment in your side. You feel the searing heat penetrate deep, not just on the surface, but a deep, agonizing burn that seems to go right to your bones, igniting every nerve ending. It feels endless, a relentless, focused immolation of your own flesh. You gag, the taste of hot copper metallic and sickening, mixing with the bitterness of bile. Then, as suddenly as it began, it's over. The iron is lifted, the horrific sizzling sound replaced by a phantom echo in your mind. You lie there, panting, trembling, every nerve ending screaming in protest. The air, though cold, feels incredibly sharp against the cauterized wound. A new, different kind of burning ache that radiates through your whole side. A constant, raw throb. The lingering stench of burning flesh, however, still fills your nostrils, a visceral trophy of what you have just endured. Your entire being is consumed by the aftermath, a profound shock that leaves you weak, gasping, on the verge of unconsciousness. The barber surgeon, without a word, cleans the instrument, his movements precise and unhurried. He doesn't look at you, his focus already shifted to wrapping the fresh, raw wound with clean, tight bandages. Your vision swims, the edges of the tent blurring, but the memory of that searing heat, that horrifying smell, is burned into your mind, a new layer of trauma etched over the existing pain. This kind of brutal healing, this necessary cruelty, reminds you that sometimes surviving is a far more agonizing ordeal than dying. It is a testament to the sheer, unyielding will of the human spirit to simply keep existing, no matter the cost, no matter the pain. The real fight isn't always with a weapon. Sometimes it's simply to endure. The pervasive smell of damp stone and ancient wood smoke wraps around you the moment you step into the castle's inner keep. It's a deep, earthy scent, laced with the fainter, cloying odor of old rushes and too many unwashed bodies. You feel the immediate drop in temperature as the heavy wooden door swings shut behind you, sealing out the outside world but welcoming a chill that seems to emanate from the very walls themselves. Your boots, still caked with a thin layer of mud from the battlefield, echo dully on the uneven flagstones, a sound swallowed quickly by the thick, hanging air. This isn't a place of gentle warmth or soft comforts. It's a fortress, built for defense, and every aspect of it reminds you of that stark, unyielding purpose. You run a hand along the cold, rough-hewn stone of the corridor wall as you move deeper inside. The rock is perpetually cool, slick with a fine layer of moisture that seems to defy any fire in the hearths. Light is scarce here, struggling to penetrate through narrow arrow slits and small, grimy windows, leaving vast stretches of the passageway in perpetual gloom. Your eyes strain, adapting to the dimness, making out the vague shapes of archways and doorways that lead to unknown chambers. The constant, subtle drafts, like unseen hands, pluck at your tunic, carrying with them the distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the faint bleating of sheep from the outer bailey, and the low hum of numerous voices, always present, always just out of sight. Every corner you turn, every narrow staircase you ascend, feels like navigating a labyrinth designed by practicality, not ease. The steps are worn smooth by centuries of heavy boots, uneven and treacherous in the dim light. You feel the persistent dampness in your bones, a chill that no amount of wool seems capable of banishing entirely. Even the tapestries, hung to ward off the cold, feel heavy and stiff, smelling of dust and age, offering little true reprieve. You watch servants move with quiet purpose, their faces etched with a familiar weariness, their backs bent under burdens, a silent acknowledgement of the relentless effort required just to maintain this vast, cold structure. This castle isn't a home in the sense of warmth and coziness. It's a living, breathing machine of stone and timber, constantly demanding. Its grandeur is in its formidable strength, its ability to withstand siege, not in its comfort. You feel the constant presence of its immense weight, its silent judgment of any softness or weakness. It's a place of enduring discomfort, a fortress designed not just against enemies without, but against any illusion of ease within. The sheer scale of its cold, hard reality is a daily, relentless imposition, a permanent state of being, reminding you that even inside these protective walls, true rest is a rare and fleeting luxury. The cold isn't just in the air here. It radiates from the very stone, a deep, ancient chill that seems to have seeped into the foundations of the castle itself. You feel it immediately as you press your bare hand against the wall of the narrow passage, a raw, almost wet cold that makes your skin prickle and your fingers ache instantly. It's a bone-deep cold, one that no amount of thick wool seems capable of truly repelling. Your breath, a constant misty plume, hangs in the still, heavy air of the interior, a visible testament to the enduring freeze. Even the flickering torchlight, casting long, dancing shadows, seems to struggle against the pervasive gloom and the stubborn chill of the massive blocks. You wrap your arms tighter around yourself, hunching your shoulders, trying to minimize the exposed skin. The leather of your boots, stiff from the enduring damp, creaks with every step on the uneven flagstones. Each breath you draw feels like it cools your lungs from the inside, and a dull ache has settled deep in your joints, a constant, low throb that makes every movement feel stiff and deliberate. This isn't the sharp, invigorating cold of a winter morning outdoors. This is a heavy, static, persistent cold that feels like a weight, a slow, draining force that saps your energy. It's the kind of cold that seems to live in the shadows, waiting. You pass a small brazier, its coals glowing a weak, defiant orange, but the warmth it offers is meager, a tiny island in an ocean of chill. You pause for a moment, holding your numb hands over the faint heat, trying to coax some feeling back into your fingertips. The metal of the brazier is barely warm enough to provide comfort, and the instant you pull your hands away, the cold bites back, sharper than before. A servant hurries past, her face red and chapped, a thin shawl pulled tightly around her head, offering you a brief, empathetic glance that speaks volumes about the shared misery of this internal winter. The castle walls, thick and impenetrable, keep out enemies, but they also trap this unforgiving cold inside, a constant companion. It's in the damp scent of the air, the condensation clinging to the high arches, the slickness on the steps that warn of potential slips. You find yourself moving with a subtle, unconscious caution, your body perpetually braced against the omnipresent chill, your mind focused on the next pocket of relative warmth, the next corner that might offer a brief respite from its relentless bite. This fortress is a shield, yes, but it is also a giant, silent refrigerator, its stone heart perpetually frozen. The cold is a constant, unyielding antagonist, a daily battle fought not with weapons but with stubborn endurance, a test of your very will to remain warm in a world that seems determined to freeze you to your core. The aroma hits you first, rich and overpowering, a complex tapestry of roasted meat, pungent spices, and the sweet, heavy scent of freshly baked bread. It's a primal invitation that makes your stomach rumble with an almost embarrassing intensity, overriding the lingering ache in your wounded side. You step into the great hall, and the warmth, thick and enveloping, washes over you like a physical embrace, a welcome shock after the castle's perpetual chill. The roar of a massive fire crackling in the hearth throws dancing shadows across the high vaulted ceiling, illuminating scores of faces flushed with drink and good cheer. The air is a vibrant hum of conversation, laughter, and the clatter of wooden trenchers on rough-hewn tables. You navigate the crowded hall, your eyes scanning the long tables piled high with food. Whole roasted pigs, their skin glistening and crisp, lie alongside platters of steaming fowl, thick stews bubbling in cauldrons, and great mounds of dark, crusty bread. The sight is almost overwhelming after the meager rations and simple fare of the campaign. You reach a space at a crowded table, feeling the press of bodies against you, the warmth of human proximity. A serving boy, nimble and quick, sets down a rough wooden trencher before you, already laden with a thick slice of venison and a generous scoop of boiled root vegetables. The steam rises, fragrant and enticing, promising immediate, satisfying comfort. You grasp a hunk of bread, tearing it with your bare hands, the crust firm, the inside soft and yielding. You use it to sop up the rich gravy from your trencher. The taste of fat and spices, a sudden explosion on your tongue, a sharp contrast to the blandness of camp food. You eat quickly, almost savagely, your body still craving the nourishment, the sheer calories, after the privations of battle and the drain of healing. The meat is tender, flavorful, each bite a profound satisfaction. You feel the warmth spread through your chest, a deep contentment settling in your belly. Around you, others eat with similar, unself-conscious gusto, tearing at meat, gulping down ale from pottery mugs, their faces gleaming with grease and pleasure. Someone pushes a heavy, earthenware jug towards you, brimming with ale. You lift it, feeling its cool weight, and drink deeply, the bitter, yeasty liquid, a refreshing counterpoint to the rich food. It burns slightly as it goes down, a pleasant warmth spreading through your throat and chest. You watch the lord of the castle at the high table, his face ruddy, laughing loudly, a silver goblet raised in a toast. This is more than just a meal. It's a celebration of survival, a momentary oblivion from the harsh realities of winter and war. It's a primal act, a shared experience of abundant sustenance, a brief, gluttonous release. You might not carry a sword to this feast, but you carry the scars of a war that makes this simple, savage act of eating feel like the most profound victory of all. The thick, slick grease from the roasted fowl coats your fingers, warm and unctuous, a satisfying residue you hardly bother to wipe away. You tear another strip of meat from the bone, pulling it free with your teeth, feeling the savory fat burst on your tongue, coating your mouth in rich, animal flavor. The taste of salt, herbs, and smoke is utterly decadent, a feast for senses accustomed to lean, bland rations. A trickle of dark wine, from an over-enthusiastically refilled goblet, splashes onto the rough wooden table before you, then drips to the rushes on the floor with a soft splat. No one around you even notices. Or if they do, they certainly don't care. The air is thick with the sweet, heady scent of spilled wine, mingled with the lingering aromas of roasted meats, and the heavy, earthy smell of the hall. Your own chin is glistening, a testament to your uninhibited indulgence, and you find yourself grinning, a genuine wide smile that feels unfamiliar and welcome after the grim mask of battle. You wipe your greasy hand absently on your tunic, the fabric already stained and smelling of the feast. Around you, the revelry swells. Laughter echoes off the stone walls, deep and raucous, punctuated by the clatter of tankards and the scraping of knives on trenchers. A burly man across from you, his face flushed red with ale, lets out a triumphant shout as he finishes an entire platter of roasted duck, then thumps his mug down with a resounding konkslak. You catch his eye, and he raises his half-empty mug to you in a silent, boisterous toast of shared excess. The sheer abundance is intoxicating. You watch a server pass by, struggling under the weight of an enormous wooden bowl overflowing with steaming pottage, its rich scent momentarily dominating the air. There are no delicate manners here, no refined expectations. Hands reach, grab, tear, and devour with primal hunger and joyful abandon. Wine is splashed, ale is sloshed, food is dropped and trodden into the rushes, a testament to the sheer, glorious waste of a victorious celebration. The floor beneath your boots feels uneven, sticky with spilled drink and stray morsels, a testament to the evening's unrestrained enjoyment. This isn't just about satisfying hunger. It's about gorging, about embracing the transient pleasure of plenty after enduring scarcity, of warmth and rich flavors after the chilling bite of winter, and the metallic tang of battle. You drain your mug, feeling the warm, bitter ale settle heavy in your gut, a comforting weight. This feast, this joyful, messy, utterly unrefined indulgence, feels like a necessary counterpoint to the rigid discipline and brutal realities of your life as a knight. It's the wild, untamed release that allows you to face the next round of cold, of hardship, of blood. This is not about the grand strategy of war, but the fundamental, visceral celebration of surviving it. The mess on the chin, the wine on the floor, they are badges of a different kind of victory. The relentless rhythm of your horse's hooves on the muddy trail becomes a dull, hypnotic thud, a constant vibration that travels up through the saddle, through your weary bones. The biting wind, ever present, whips around you, stealing any warmth, carrying the damp, earthy scent of the churned-up path. You shift your weight, trying to find a fresh spot on the stiff leather saddle, but every inch of you aches. Your thighs from gripping, your back from hunching against the chill, your shoulders from the constant subtle strain of maintaining balance. Your woolen cloak, heavy and damp, offers little comfort against the persistent cold that seems to seep into your very core. Hours bleed into one another. The landscape passes by in a monotonous blur of barren trees, gray fields, and low, squat villages, each one looking much like the last. The sky is a uniform, heavy gray, threatening rain that never quite falls, adding to the pervasive sense of bleakness. Your eyes, gritty and tired, scan the horizon less out of vigilance, and more out of a desperate need for some new sight, some break in the dull, enduring monotony. You pull your hood tighter, trying to shield your face from the relentless wind, feeling the chapping on your lips, the numb chill in your fingers. A low groan escapes your lips as another spasm of pain shoots through your side, a vivid reminder of the barber surgeon's crude work. You press a gloved hand against the wrapped wound, trying to steady the throbbing ache, knowing that every jarring movement of the horse is pulling at the stitches, threatening to reopen the gash. The fear of infection, always a silent companion on these long journeys, prickles at the back of your mind. You lean forward slightly, seeking some relief, some tiny adjustment that might lessen the relentless grind of the journey, but it's a futile effort. There's no true comfort to be found. You watch the man ahead of you, his back a rigid, unwavering line, his head bowed against the wind. He seems as much a part of his horse as you are of yours. Two entities locked in a tireless, unending progression. No one speaks, the shared misery and the sheer effort of the journey rendering conversation impossible, unnecessary. It's an endurance test, a constant battle against the elements, against fatigue, against the slow, creeping tendrils of pain. This isn't the glory of a charge, nor the violence of battle, but the quiet, relentless, unglamorous grind that truly defines the life of a knight, the endless ride, the constant movement, the sheer, unyielding demand of distance. The land itself is the enemy here, vast and indifferent, and your only weapon is the tireless will to keep moving forward, one agonizing hoof-fall after another. The coarse, hardened leather of the saddle has become a relentless antagonist, chafing against your inner thighs with every jarring movement of the horse. You feel the persistent, dull ache in your lower back intensify, a constant protest against the endless hours spent hunched, trying to absorb the relentless thud and sway. Your backside, already numb, now prickles with an almost desperate itch, a phantom sensation born of friction and fatigue. You try to shift to alleviate the pressure, but there's no comfortable position, only varying degrees of discomfort. The saddle, designed to hold you firm, now feels less like a support and more like a cruel, unyielding clamp, slowly grinding you down. Your muscles, strained and stiff, resist every small adjustment you attempt. You feel the deep fatigue in your core, the constant effort to maintain balance against the powerful, rolling gait of your mount. The rhythmic creak of the leather beneath you, a sound that once blended into the background, now highlights every painful jolt, every subtle twist. Your legs, once strong and agile, are now leaden, heavy, their circulation seemingly muted by the persistent pressure of the stirrup leathers and the tight grip you maintain. You try to relax them, to let the horse do more of the work, but even that simple act requires an energy you barely possess. You pass another rider, his face grim, his posture as rigid and pained as your own. He glances at you, a fleeting shared understanding in his eyes, a silent acknowledgement of the relentless, private torture of the long ride. No words are exchanged. There's nothing to say. The wind continues to bite, drying your lips, but the internal battle with the saddle's embrace consumes your focus. You focus on your breath, on the small, almost imperceptible shifts of your horse's powerful back, trying to anticipate the next jarring step, to brace your body just enough to mitigate the impact. The hours stretch out, an endless repetition of discomfort and movement. The leather, once a familiar friend, is now an unforgiving tormentor, a testament to the raw physical demand of medieval travel. It's a constant, intimate struggle, a silent war waged against your own body. This isn't the swift, decisive pain of a weapon, but the slow, insidious drain of constant, pervasive suffering, turning the very act of riding into an act of sheer, unwavering endurance. The saddle's embrace, meant for control and security, has become an iron grip of agony, squeezing the last remnants of comfort from your weary frame, reminding you that true strength often lies in enduring the unseen, uncelebrated aches of the journey itself. You wake, but the word wake feels far too gentle for the slow, agonizing ascent from sleep. It's less like rising and more like hauling a heavy, reluctant sack of bones and protesting muscle from the deepest pit. The first sensation is a dull, pervasive ache, a low hum of chronic pain that seems to emanate from every joint, every tendon, a constant companion you only notice when the quiet demands it. Your lower back, a stubborn friend, stiffens immediately with the slightest attempt to move, a raw, guttural groan escaping your lips despite your best efforts. You try to stretch, extending an arm, but the muscles feel like frayed ropes, reluctant to lengthen, resisting every command from your weary mind. When you finally push yourself to a sitting position, your knees protest with a dry, grating crack, a sound that echoes unnervingly loud in the quiet dawn air. Each joint, from your neck to your ankles, feels like it's grinding, a miniature protest against the simple act of bending. This isn't the sharp, specific pain of a fresh injury, but the cumulative, insidious weight of countless battles, endless, bone-jarring rides, and the unforgiving chill of medieval winters that seem to have permanently settled into your marrow. Your fingers, gnarled and thick from a lifetime of grasping rough tools, cold steel and taut reins, are stiff, reluctant to clench into a fist, their joints swollen and aching with a damp, persistent cold. You run a calloused hand over your jaw, feeling the stubble, then trace the faint, jagged scar that snakes across your cheekbone, a ghost of a past injury, still tender and tight beneath your touch. The castle's pervasive cold seems to cling to your very bones, a deep, penetrating chill that no amount of roaring fire ever wholly banishes from the heart of this stone fortress. Your breath, always a little too shallow, feels strained, and you realize your chest aches, not from a recent blow, but from the constant, underlying tension, the years of bracing, of enduring, of simply living this life. As you finally manage to stand, a brief, faint dizziness swirls through your head, a fleeting moment of unsettling imbalance before your weary body, with years of ingrained habit, finds its footing. Each step is a heavy, deliberate thud, your worn boots dragging slightly on the cold, uneven flagstones. The healed wound in your side, a testament to the barber-surgeon's brutal craft, still pulls, a tight, phantom ache that reminds you of the cauterizing iron and the agony you endured. You catch your reflection in a dull, grimy pane of glass, a figure stooped slightly, movements stiff, eyes heavy-lidded, etched with lines that speak of endless watch and enduring pain. This isn't just a body. It's a living monument to the relentless physical cost of your chosen path. Every ache, every stiffness, every scar, is a chapter in a story written not with words but with bone and sinew. This is the truth of the knight, not in the shining armor or the heroic tales, but in the raw, aching, enduring vessel beneath, a vessel that carries the weight of 1,000 trials within its very bones. The insidious tickle starts subtly, a faint whisper against your skin, somewhere on your upper back, just between your shoulder blades. You try to ignore it, focusing on the dull conversation around you in the castle hall, but it persists. A tiny, annoying voice demanding attention. It's the kind of itch that seems to stem from 1,000 tiny irritations. The coarse, unwashed wool of your tunic, the fine layer of grime from weeks on the road without proper bathing, perhaps even a residual flake of dried blood from your still healing wound. It blooms from a tickle into a sharp, insistent demand. making your skin prickle with an unwelcome urgency. You try to shift, subtly twisting your torso, hoping the friction of the fabric against your body will offer some relief. Your shoulder blade presses against the chair back, you lean into it, squirming just slightly, trying to get that perfect satisfying rub. It helps for a fleeting second, a mere tease, before the torment returns, sharper, more focused, almost mocking in its persistence. Your mind, usually occupied with tactical thoughts or the endless list of duties, is now entirely consumed by this single, maddening physical demand. It's an itch that crawls, that spreads, that becomes a relentless internal battle, unseen by anyone else, but overwhelming to you. You resist the urge to violently scratch, knowing it would only draw attention, betraying a moment of weakness. A knight is supposed to be above such petty discomforts, but this is different. This isn't a wound that calls for valor, or a chill that demands endurance. This is a small, insistent betrayal from your own skin, a microscopic rebellion that threatens to unravel your composure. You try to rub your shoulder against the wall as you walk, a casual gesture that achieves nothing but a fleeting scrape. The rough fabric of your sleeve offers no solace, only adding to the texture of irritation. The itch becomes a phantom limb, a part of you that is screaming for relief. Just out of reach, you catch a glimpse of your reflection in a polished pewter plate. Your brow is furrowed, your jaw subtly clenched, a clear sign of the internal struggle. The sheer indignity of it grates on your nerves. To have faced battle, survived wounds, endured hunger and cold, only to be brought to the brink of distraction by an insignificant, maddening itch. It's a profound, almost absurd irony, a constant, irritating reminder that no matter your strength or your title, the body remains a fragile, demanding vessel, capable of its own unique, relentless torments. And sometimes the hardest battle is the one you can't even begin to fight, the itch you simply can't scratch. The heavy, perfumed air of the Lord's council chamber presses in on you, thick with the scent of old parchment, stale wine, and the cloying sweetness of rushes that haven't been changed in days. It's a smell that speaks of stagnant authority, a stark contrast to the clean, biting air of the battlefield or the honest stench of the stable. You stand rigid, a silent sentinel by the wall, your eyes fixed on the dais where Lord Alaric sits, his face impassive, almost bored. Your polished steel feels heavy, not with the familiar burden of armor for battle, but with the ceremonial weight of expectation, of a code that feels increasingly fragile in this room. A peasant, his face haggard and streaked with dirt, kneels before the Lord, his voice a desperate, reedy whine, pleading for redress against a powerful neighboring baron. You listen, your jaw tightening beneath your clean-shaven chin. He speaks of trampled crops, stolen livestock, a wife dishonored. The words paint a picture of injustice, a clear violation of the very protection you, as a knight, are sworn to provide. You feel a familiar, subtle tremor of anger deep in your gut, a quiet protest against the helplessness of the weak. This is the simple farmer, the backbone of the realm, the very man whose life the chivalric code theoretically protects. Lord Alaric, however, merely waves a dismissive hand, his rings flashing in the torchlight. His voice, when he speaks, is flat, devoid of emotion, a cold pronouncement about the complexities of alliances, the need for stability over petty grievances. He says the Baron is too powerful, too well connected, that interfering would risk a larger conflict. A young squire standing nearby shifts uneasily, his gaze dropping to the floor, clearly uncomfortable. You sense the unspoken truth in the room. Convenience trumps justice. You watch the peasant, his shoulders slumping, his face draining of hope as he's led away, his pleas dissolving into the indifferent hum of the chamber. The code you live by, the noble ideals of protecting the innocent and upholding justice, feels suddenly hollow, a beautiful tapestry with gaping, unseen holes. It's not just a breach. It's a fundamental crack, deep and unsettling, in the very foundation of what you are meant to be. The iron you carry, meant to enforce justice, feels cold and impotent, a silent witness to a betrayal not of action, but of principle. The true battle, you realize, isn't always fought with steel, but with the quiet, crushing weight of pragmatic indifference, eroding the very soul of honor itself. The cold, iron taste of fear, distinct from the metallic tang of battle, hangs heavy in the small, makeshift tent. You stand over the fallen enemy knight, his helmet removed, revealing a face pale with exhaustion, and a cut bleeding faintly at his temple. His eyes, though wary, meet yours with a flicker of defiance, a shared understanding passing between warriors, even as victor and vanquished. The air is still thick with the aftermath of combat, the acrid scent of sweat, the faint aroma of damp earth, and something indescribably grim. Your own armor still feels heavy, a second skin, though now it's cooling, the adrenaline of the charge having long since dissipated into a dull ache in your limbs. A squire kneels beside the captive, carefully removing the gauntlets, revealing hands that are raw and bruised, but clearly those of a fighting man, not a peasant. He finds a small, intricately worked ring on one finger, a sign of noble lineage. Your gaze falls on it, a silent appraisal. This isn't just a defeated foe. This is a commodity, a potential fortune. The value of this man, currently lying helpless at your feet, is being calculated in your mind and in the minds of others around you, in a brutal, detached calculus that has nothing to do with honor or vengeance. It's about coin, about influence, about bolstering your lord's coffers, perhaps even your own. You watch as another knight, his armor still caked with mud, gestures to the captive with his poleaxe, a silent question in his eyes. Kill him and be done, or bind him and demand recompense. The choice is stark, devoid of sentiment. Killing him saves a mouth to feed, removes a potential future foe, and ensures no resources are wasted on his care. But capturing him offers far more. A ransom that could provision a small army, repair battle-damaged equipment, or secure new land. It's a risk, this prolonged imprisonment, a drain on men and resources, but the reward is immense. The captive watches you, his eyes shifting between your face and the other knight's weapon. He understands the unspoken negotiation taking place above his head, the cold, economic weighing of his life. His breath is shallow, hitched. You feel the weight of the decision, not a moral burden in the traditional sense, but a strategic one. This isn't about the swing of a sword, but the harsh reality of war's true cost, where a human life, specifically a noble human life, has a tangible market value, a price written not in blood, but in gold. It's a chilling realization how quickly a man's worth can shift from a warrior on the field to a bargaining chip in the cold aftermath. It's a strange irony, isn't it? That after all the fury and chaos of battle, the true victory often comes down to the quiet, brutal calculation of a prisoner's ransom, where life itself is merely an asset in a ledger. The air in the small, cold chapel is thick with the scent of burning charcoal and stale incense, a sharp, cloying mixture that prickles your nostrils. You stand among a hushed crowd, your back pressed against the rough, damp stone wall, the chill seeping through your thick tunic despite the warmth radiating from the center of the room. Your eyes are drawn to the brazier, its iron coals glowing a malevolent red, pulsing with an intense heat that seems to warp the very air above it. The silence is profound, broken only by the soft crackle of the coals and the ragged, shallow breathing of the man kneeling before them. He is a peasant, his face gaunt, streaked with fear and grime, his bare hands clasped tightly, trembling visibly. He has been accused of theft, a small sack of grain, and now faces this ordeal, this trial by iron. You watch his eyes dart frantically from the glowing coals to the stern, unmoving face of the priest, then to the heavy, thick rod of iron that rests within the heat, its tip shimmering with an impossible, almost liquid orange. The priest's low, droning chant fills the void, invoking God's judgment, a stark contrast to the palpable terror radiating from the kneeling man. This isn't a fight you can join, a wrong you can right with a blade. This is a cold, ritualistic form of justice, played out before silent witnesses. A hush falls, deeper now, as the priest gestures. The peasant, with a desperate, choked sob, slowly extends his hand. You see his fingers twitch, his whole body tense, battling against instinct. Then, with a scream ripped from his very soul, he snatches the glowing iron. The immediate, horrifying sizzle of flesh against superheated metal fills the chapel, followed by the acrid, sickening smell of burning skin that instantly assaults your nostrils, making your stomach clench. He drops the rod with a desperate clatter, cradling his hand, rocking back and forth, whimpering, a raw animal sound of pure agony. His eyes are wide, unseeing, reflecting only the searing pain. The priest steps forward, his expression still impassive, and swiftly wraps the burned hand in a clean cloth, binding it tight. 3 days, he pronounces. 3 days to see if God's judgment will show innocence through healing, or guilt through festering. The crowd murmurs, some with pity, some with grim satisfaction. You feel the cold dread of it all, the brutal simplicity, the utter lack of true inquiry. Guilt or innocence, life or death, decided not by testimony or evidence, but by a man's capacity to endure unbearable pain, or by the caprice of a system that calls this divine will. It's a harrowing thing to witness this justice by ordeal, to see truth determined not by reason or compassion, but by raw iron. 3 days later, the air in the small chapel is no longer thick with charcoal, but with something far more sickly and cloying, the undeniable, metallic sweet stench of putrefaction. It catches in your throat, a foul, visceral odor that makes your stomach churn even before you see the cause. You stand once more among the hushed, expectant crowd, your gaze fixed on the peasant, who now kneels, his body swaying faintly, his face a pale, ghostly mask of fear and exhaustion. His eyes are sunken, bloodshot, and fixed on the priest with a desperate, silent plea. His burned hand, still wrapped in its crude linen bandage, looks impossibly swollen beneath the cloth, an ominous, discolored bulge. The priest steps forward, his movements slow and deliberate, a dramatic tension hanging heavy in the silence. He reaches for the bandage, his expression as impassive as stone, completely devoid of empathy. You hold your breath, along with everyone else, as he begins to unwrap the cloth. The air instantly thickens with the putrid smell, a wave of stench so powerful it makes several people near you visibly recoil, some clutching their mouths. As the last layer of linen falls away, the sight is gut-wrenching. The peasant's hand is a grotesque, swollen mess of black and green, oozing pus, the flesh around the burn raw and inflamed. A low, collective murmur ripples through the chapel, a mix of horror and grim confirmation. The peasant whimpers, a broken, barely audible sound, his eyes wide and unseeing, staring at his ruined limb as if it belongs to someone else. He doesn't need the priest's verdict. The judgment is written in the festering flesh before them all. The priest, however, raises his hand, silencing the murmurs. His voice, cold and clear, rings through the chapel, declaring God's will, pronouncing the peasant guilty as charged. There's no appeal, no argument, no question. The proof is undeniable, visible for all to see. You feel a cold knot tighten in your chest, a profound sense of helplessness. This isn't justice as you understand it, not a truth born of witness or reason, but a brutal, unwavering faith in a divine judgment manifested through suffering. Two guards step forward, their faces grim, and roughly haul the peasant to his feet. He offers no resistance, his body a trembling broken shell, his gaze still fixed on his rotting hand as they drag him away to face his punishment. The foul stench of the wound, however, lingers, a stubborn, haunting reminder of the brutal verdict. You watch him go, feeling the weight of the crowd's silent acceptance, the unyielding power of a belief system that sees such agony as divine revelation. This is a battle you cannot fight with steel. It is a judgment rendered by faith and flesh, a burden that hangs heavier than any sword you might carry. The knight's code might demand protection, but against this, you are utterly, terrifyingly powerless. The air in the armory hung heavy, thick with a cloying scent of old grease, damp leather, and the faint metallic tang of neglected iron. It wasn't the vibrant smell of a working forge, nor the sharp, clean scent of newly burnished steel, but something stale, a quiet decay that seeped into everything. You run a gloved hand over the breastplate, feeling the fine, almost imperceptible grit of dust clinging to the polished surface. It's not a fresh battle scar, a mark of valor earned in fury, but the slow, insidious mark of disuse, a quiet testament to the enduring lull in fighting. Your fingers trace a small patch of rust, a reddish-brown stain spreading patiently from a joint, a silent enemy far more relentless than any foe you've ever faced with a sword. The polishing cloth feels limp and heavy in your hand, an almost futile gesture against the encroaching stillness. You rub at the steel with practiced, methodical strokes, the soft rasping sound filling the quiet, echoing chamber. Each movement is precise, ingrained from countless hours of such labor. Yet today it lacks the urgency, the sharp focus of preparation for battle. It feels more like a ritual, a silent act of defiance against the inevitable degradation of metal and spirit alike. Your muscles, once taut and eager for action, now feel stiff, accustomed to the low thrum of chronic aches from previous wounds rather than the sharp burn of recent exertion. You hear the dull, rhythmic rasp of another knight, perhaps similarly engaged in this endless, quiet task of maintenance, a sound that speaks less of readiness and more of boredom. He doesn't look up, merely continues his work, his form a hunched, weary silhouette in the dim light filtering through the narrow arrow slits. The silence stretches, broken only by the whispers of steel against cloth, a metallic sigh that feels oddly melancholic. There are no shouts of command, no urgent clamor of squires arming their lords, just this slow, quiet preservation. This peace, you realize, is a different kind of burden, a pervasive weight that presses down, not with the immediate threat of combat, but with the slow, insidious grind of non-purpose. Your gaze drifts from the gleaming, restored section of the breastplate to the dusty, untouched pieces nearby. A pauldron lies half hidden in shadow, its surface dull, its leather straps brittle. It almost seems to sigh, a silent acknowledgement of its obsolescence. You remember the raw power, the exhilarating terror of battle, and a strange, almost unsettling longing stirs within you. Not for the carnage, but for the clarity of purpose, the undeniable necessity of your skills, of your very being, that war demanded. Here, in the quiet, the polished steel feels like a hollow shell, waiting for a function that may never come. It's a strange thing, this piece. It saves lives, yes, but for a night, it can also feel like a slow, quiet rust, eating away at the very core of what you are, leaving behind only the polished, empty husk of a warrior without a war. The quiet hum of the castle, a sound often drowned out by the clang of swords or the thud of hooves, now presses in on you, a constant, low thrum that emphasizes the lack of purpose. You stand in the courtyard, watching a group of squires wrestle playfully with wooden sticks, their laughter echoing hollowly against the stone walls. It's a sound that once would have spurred you to teach them a proper guard, a disciplined thrust, but now you find yourself merely observing, a spectator in a world you once commanded. Your hands, calloused and scarred, feel strangely empty, lacking the familiar weight of a weapon or the coarse texture of a horse's reins. The crisp winter air, once a sharp clarion call to action, now merely feels cold against your face, without a task to lend it meaning. You walk towards the training yard, the heavy thud of your boots on the compacted earth feeling disproportionate to your lack of objective. A younger knight, eager and restless, is practicing with his sword against a pell, his movements sharp, precise, his breath coming in steamy puffs. You watch him, a flicker of something almost like envy, but mostly a detached weariness stirring within you. He swings, he parries, he thrusts, imbued with a fiery energy you remember possessing, an energy now banked, smoldering low. He has a future, a clear path laid out by battle and honor. But what about you? The scars on your body, the aches in your joints. They are trophies from a past that seems increasingly distant, increasingly irrelevant, in this prolonged, unsettling peace. The sword, a beautifully crafted piece of polished steel, hangs on your belt, its weight a familiar, almost comforting presence, yet it feels ornamental now, a symbol more than a tool. You run your thumb over the cold hilt, the metal smooth under your touch. When was the last time it truly sang in battle, earned its purpose? Weeks? Months? The time blurs. Your gaze drifts to the men laboring in the fields beyond the castle walls, their backs bent, their work hard and relentless, but clear in its necessity. They build, they grow, they sustain. Your role, however, feels lost in this new rhythm, a warrior without a war, a protector without an immediate threat. The silence of your own mind, once a fierce, focused clarity in the heat of battle, now feels like a vast, echoing chamber, filled with unspoken questions. What is a night without a war? What defines you when the very engine of your identity is stalled? The strength in your arms, the discipline in your spirit, the years of brutal training, they all feel strangely misplaced, like an unused talent, rusting slowly inside you. This isn't the grand, celebrated piece of bards' songs. This is a quiet, insidious erosion of purpose, a slow, internal decay. The problem, you realize with a heavy heart, isn't that you don't carry a sword. It's that there's no longer a clear reason to wield it, leaving you with a profound, unsettling void. The air itself seems to prickle with a new, unsettling quality, heavy with the sharp scent of burning herbs and pitch, meant to cleanse, but mingling ominously with something far more insidious. The faint, sweet, cloying smell of decay carried on the chill wind. You ride through the usually bustling outer village, and a profound, unnatural silence presses in, broken only by the mournful creak of a distant well rope and the nervous snorts of your horse. No children play, no gossiping women gather by the market square. The doors of homes are shut tight, many barred from the outside, marked with crude, chalked crosses or bundles of straw, like desperate, silent prayers against an unseen evil. You pass a small hovel, its window shuttered, and a low, guttural cough echoes from within, a sound that sends a shiver down your spine far more effectively than any cold blade. Your gaze sweeps the deserted street, a knot tightening in your gut. Your hand, calloused from years of gripping sword hilts, feels almost useless now, hovering near your belt. Against a visible foe, your training, your strength, your heavy armor would mean something. But this enemy has no face, no shield, no banner to charge against. It is an unseen cloud, a silent stalker, leaving behind only the grim markers of its passage. A woman, her face pale and drawn, emerges from a doorway across the street, her eyes wide with a frantic animal fear. She clutches a small child to her chest, pulling him close, her gaze flicking nervously from your armored figure to the marked house, then back to you. There's no greeting, no gesture of respect, only a deep, primal distrust, a fear that seems to seep from her very pores. She hurries away, disappearing into another doorway, leaving behind only the lingering scent of despair. You feel the weight of her fear, a palpable thing, settling upon you. It clings to the very air, to the cold stone, to the silent, deserted spaces. Your horse shifts uneasily beneath you, sensing the pervasive anxiety, its ears flicking, its powerful body tense. You press your legs into its flanks, a subtle command for steady forward movement, and the rhythmic thud of its hooves on the muddy track seems impossibly loud in the pervasive quiet. The familiar weight of your sword at your hip feels like an anachronism, a relic from a different age where problems could be solved with steel and courage. Here, courage is a whispered prayer, and steel is impotent. The world is no longer lit by the sun's gentle dawn, but by the harsh, flickering, desperate light of collective fear, burning in every shadowed doorway, every anxious glance, every silent, abandoned street. It's a chilling realization, isn't it? To be a warrior, trained for battle, only to face an enemy that cannot be fought, cannot be struck, and against which, all your strength is utterly, terrifyingly useless. The heavy, sweet scent of frankincense and myrrh, usually a comfort, now feels oppressive, cloying, thick with a desperation that chokes the air in the small, crowded church. It mingles with the sharp tang of unwashed bodies, the lingering, almost sickly sweet odor of illness, and a profound, underlying current of fear that seems to emanate from the very stones. You stand amidst the huddled villagers, their faces pale and drawn, their eyes wide and fixed on the altar, where the priest, his voice strained and cracking, leads a mournful litany of prayers. Each word feels like a desperate plea, a fragile shield against the invisible terror that stalks their homes. You feel the slight, unsettling sway of the man next to you, his breath coming in shallow, ragged gasps. He coughs, a dry, hacking sound that is quickly stifled by a ragged hand, but the sound, and the raw fear in his eyes, is enough. You try to draw a deep breath, but the air is too heavy, too thick with smoke and dread, making your lungs feel tight, constricted. The faint, persistent tremor that runs through the crowd is almost palpable, a collective shiver of apprehension that seems to settle deep in your own bones. Your hardened hand instinctively reaches for the cross around your neck, a silent, desperate gesture of a warrior seeking solace in a different kind of armor, against an enemy no steel can deflect. The priest raises a heavy censer, swinging it in slow, deliberate arcs, sending plumes of sweet-smelling smoke swirling through the flickering candlelight. The incense, meant to purify, feels instead like a shroud, a veil drawn against an inescapable darkness. You watch the smoke curl, dissipating slowly into the cold, damp air, a visible symbol of fleeting hope. A child, whimpering softly, clutches at his mother's skirt, burying his face in the coarse fabric. She strokes his head, her eyes distant, filled with a sorrow so profound it feels almost tangible. This isn't the loud, desperate chaos of battle, but a quiet, insidious despair, a surrender to an enemy that respects no shield, no sword, no courage. As the prayers continue, a chilling realization settles over you. The battlefield, with all its horrors, had a brutal honesty. You knew your enemy. You could strike back. Here, in the suffocating embrace of incense and dread, you are utterly helpless. Just another face in the silent, trembling crowd. Your strength, your training, your very identity as a knight mean nothing against this invisible plague. It's a profound, terrifying powerlessness, far more insidious than any wound. The problem isn't that you didn't carry a sword. It's that even if you did, it would be useless here, in a world consumed by the silent, unyielding grip of disease, where the only weapon is a desperate prayer. The soft, lingering scent of lavender and beeswax in your lady's private solar is a stark contrast to the stable stench or the battlefield's grit. You sit on a cushioned stool, the rich velvet surprisingly soft beneath you, but its very plushness feels alien, almost stifling after the rough and tumble of campaigning. Your gauntleted hand, accustomed to gripping a mace, now rests awkwardly on your knee, feeling too large, too crude for the delicate embroidery of the cushions. Your wife, her hands busy with needlework, glances at you, her eyes warm but also filled with a silent expectation, a weight of unspoken duties that presses on your chest more heavily than any armor. Your son, a small boy of perhaps 5, clambers onto your lap, his tiny, eager hands gripping your tunic. He gazes up at you with wide, innocent eyes, his questions about your travels, about heroes and dragons, forming on his lips. You feel the fragile warmth of his body, the trusting weight of him, a tender anchor. But this small, loving weight is also a profound burden, a tangible representation of all you have to protect, all you stand to lose, far more precious and far more vulnerable than any captured foe. His mother smiles, a gentle, knowing curve of her lips that acknowledges this profound, encompassing responsibility. The silken threads of family, of lineage, of the very future of your house, are weaving themselves around you, tightening with every breath. Later, in the castle's bustling main hall, you find yourself navigating a labyrinth of hushed conversations and veiled glances. The laughter, the music, the clinking of goblets, it all forms a pleasant din. Yet beneath it, you feel the constant hum of courtly intrigue, of alliances to be maintained, reputations to be guarded, favors to be granted. A young lord approaches, his smile too smooth, his words too deferential, subtly probing about your recent campaign, about your lord's plans. You offer polite, non-committal answers, feeling the familiar tension in your shoulders, the effort of maintaining a facade, of playing a role. This isn't the clear-cut enemy of battle. It's a swirling, nuanced threat, fought with whispers and subtle maneuvers, where a misspoken word can be deadlier than a mace blow. You sip the spiced wine, its warmth a brief comfort, but your gaze drifts to the intricate tapestries on the wall, depicting knights in heroic combat. They are glorified, simplified, lacking the blood and grit, but also lacking the profound, suffocating reality of these intangible bonds. These are the chains you now wear, forged not of iron, but of love, duty, and expectation, binding you to a life more complex, perhaps even more demanding, than any war. These silken bonds, woven into the fabric of your very existence, feel far heavier, far more inescapable, than any shackles you could ever break with a sword. The rich, warm scent of spiced wine and roasted capon from the Lord's table drifts to you as you stand, rigid, in his presence. The heavy velvet of his robes, the glint of gold on his fingers as he raises a goblet to his lips, all speak of immense wealth and effortless power. You feel the weight of your own tunic, the clean wool suddenly rough against your skin, a stark reminder of your place. Your gaze, trained to seek threats, finds only the calm, unwavering authority in his eyes as he surveys the hall, a casual sweep that encompasses every man, including you. It's a look that promises protection, yes, but also absolute dominion. He catches your eye, a brief, almost imperceptible nod that signals you forward. You move, your steps silent on the fresh rushes, feeling the subtle shift in the attention of those around you, a small, cold ripple of expectation. You stop before his dais, your eyes respectfully lowered. He doesn't need to speak. You understand. The small manor you hold, the lands you oversee, the very food on your table, and the roofs over your family's heads, all are gifts from his hand. And with those gifts comes an absolute, unquestioning loyalty, a service demanded not with a shout, but with a quiet, pervasive understanding that everything you possess, everything you sire, stems from his will. He speaks, his voice a low, resonant murmur, a gentle command regarding a dispute in the outer marches, a task that will demand a long ride and potentially dangerous negotiation. You listen, your mind already calculating the logistics, the men, the provisions. There's no room for personal desire, no space for argument. His words are not requests. They are declarations, softened by the polite veneer of feudal courtesy. You feel the familiar ache in your side, the scar from your last campaign pulling tight, a reminder of the physical costs exacted in his service. The image of your wife and son, warm within your granted manor, flickers in your mind, a silent reinforcement of your obligation. You bow, a deep, formal obeisance, the movement practiced and smooth, a silent affirmation of your fealty. You are his man, bound by oath and by sustenance. The power he wields isn't in a sword he carries, but in the very land beneath your feet, in the bread that fills your belly, in the future he can grant or withhold. It's the hand that feeds, yes, but it's also the fist that commands, subtle, yet unyielding. This isn't just a lord. He is the sun around which your world revolves, and your orbit is fixed, inescapable. The weight of his will is far heavier than any armor, more binding than any chain, a constant, pervasive force that shapes every breath you take, every choice you make. This is the true power, the unseen authority that truly governs the life of a knight. The air here tastes different, wilder, sharper, carrying the scent of pine needles and damp earth, untainted by human fires or the stench of crowded towns. You feel the ground beneath your horse's hooves grow softer, the well-worn ruts of a kingdom's roads fading into indistinct game trails, marked only by broken twigs and scattered leaves. The trees close in, a dense, ancient forest of oak and beech, their bare branches intertwining overhead like the skeletal fingers of forgotten gods, blotting out the already weak winter sun. A profound, unsettling silence presses in, broken only by the rustle of your horse's hooves and the anxious whicker it lets out, sensing the unfamiliarity. Your gaze, usually sharp and discerning on familiar paths, now struggles to make sense of the tangled undergrowth, the confusing sprawl of roots and moss-covered stones. The sense of being lost, or at least profoundly disoriented, begins to prickle at the back of your mind. There are no clear landmarks, no distant church spires or smoke plumes to guide you. This is the untamed land, the wilderness that exists beyond the comforting, ordered lines of any map you've ever seen, the edge of known civilization. Your hand instinctively grips the hilt of your sword, a familiar comfort, but here, in this silent, ancient wood, its purpose feels strangely diminished. Against what do you draw steel? The whispering shadows? The deep, profound unknown? A sudden, sharp snap of a twig in the distance makes your head whip around, your heart leaping into your throat. It could be a deer, a wolf, or something far more menacing. Your horse shies, snorting nervously, its powerful body tensing beneath you. You press your legs into its flanks, murmuring reassurances, trying to project a calm you don't entirely feel. Your eyes scan the dense thicket, peering into the deep, encroaching shadows, but see nothing. The forest seems to watch you, its myriad unseen eyes, 1,000 points of cold, indifferent scrutiny. The chill deepens, not just from the lack of sunlight, but from a primal fear that has nothing to do with human enemies. This journey, far from the familiar tapestry of man-made conflicts, is a test against something far older, far more indifferent to your armor or your prowess. This is a journey into the raw, unyielding heart of nature, a world governed by instincts and primal forces, where human codes mean nothing. The weight of the unknown, the sheer, boundless wilderness, presses down on you, a profound sense of isolation. You are a small, insignificant speck in a vast, indifferent world. The problem isn't that you don't carry a sword. It's that here, on the edge of the map, there is no enemy to strike. only the overwhelming, unsettling presence of a world that was never meant for men, a world that swallows you whole. The rhythmic, low thrumming starts subtle, a pulse against the deep silence of the ancient wood, growing steadily, drawing you deeper into the unfamiliar gloom. It's not the beat of a war drum, nor the joyous rhythm of a feast, but something older, more primal, a sound that vibrates in your bones and raises the fine hairs on the back of your neck. Mixed with it is a heavy, pungent aroma, unlike any incense you've ever known, earthy, animalistic, laced with the acrid scent of burning herbs, and something sweet and cloying that makes your stomach clench. Your horse, usually resolute, snorts nervously beneath you, shifting its weight, sensing the profound strangeness that permeates the air. You dismount, your hand instinctively on the hilt of your sword, but it feels foreign, an inadequate comfort against this unseen foe. Pushing through a thick curtain of tangled vines and low-hanging branches, you emerge into a small, torch-lit clearing. The sight makes your breath catch in your throat. Figures, draped in rough furs and adorned with feathers and crude bone ornaments, move in a slow, hypnotic dance around a massive, gnarled oak tree. Its ancient trunk is smeared with dark, glistening stains, and at its base, strange, misshapen idols carved from wood and stone stand silently, their eyes painted black. The rhythmic chanting, guttural and resonant, echoes through the clearing, a language utterly alien, yet undeniably powerful. These aren't Christian folk. These aren't even the infidels you fought in distant lands. These are something else entirely. A people whose understanding of the divine is etched into the very earth and trees around you. A pagan worship that makes the hair on your arms stand on end. You watch as one figure, taller than the rest, raises a crude blood-stained bone to the sky, and the chanting intensifies, becoming a frantic, desperate crescendo. You feel a profound chill, not from the cold air, but from the unsettling realization that their fervent belief, their raw, unadulterated devotion, is directed towards forces you've been taught to call evil, to fear as the very instruments of the devil. Your sword, a testament to Christ and righteous combat, feels utterly impotent here. You cannot strike down a belief, you cannot challenge a faith that is as old and as deeply rooted as the ancient trees themselves. Your ingrained sense of right and wrong, of holy and profane, clashes violently with this primal display, creating a disorienting, almost sickening sense of spiritual vertigo. The very air seems to throb with their conviction, and you realize that for them, this place, these rituals, these entities, are their salvation, their truth. What you call darkness, they call light. What you call your devil, they call their God. It's a terrifying thing to witness. A world turned upside down, where your most fundamental truths are not just challenged, but inverted, leaving you utterly disarmed not by force, but by a profound, unbridgeable chasm of understanding. The air in the small, cramped scriptorium is cool and dry, smelling faintly of parchment, ink, and the smoldering embers of the brazier in the corner. You sit hunched over a heavy wooden table, the candlelight flickering, casting long, dancing shadows across the page before you. The quill in your hand feels strangely delicate, almost fragile, a stark contrast to the rough weight of a sword hilt. You dip its fine tip into the inkwell, the dark liquid a deep, rich black, and feel the almost imperceptible resistance as it touches the smooth vellum surface. This isn't the swift, decisive action of battle, but a slow, meticulous, almost painful act of calculation. Your eyes, accustomed to scanning distant horizons for threats or movements, now strain over rows of numbers, figures carefully inscribed by a scribe's hand. It's a ledger, a meticulous record of every bushel of grain harvested from your fields, every sheep sold, every penny spent on stable supplies, on armor repairs, on the endless, draining demands of maintaining your manor and your status. The figures blur, a dizzying array of income and outgo, profit and loss, each line a silent testament to the constant, grinding struggle of survival, of simple economic reality. The weight of it presses down on you, a burden far more pervasive than any physical armor. You trace a line with your finger, a column of expenses for your men-at-arms, for their equipment, their meager pay. The cost is staggering, a constant drain on your resources, yet they are your strength, your shield against both external threats and the unspoken demands of your lord. Their lives, their loyalty, are bought with these numbers, these careful calculations. You remember the raw, visceral thrill of leading them into battle, the shared sense of purpose. But here, in the cold light of the ledger, that glory is reduced to a series of debits and credits, a stark, unsentimental accounting. A faint, cold ache settles in your side, the scar from your wound pulling tight, a reminder of the physical cost of your service. But this, you realize, this quiet, agonizing tally is the true, unseen battle you fight every day. It's the relentless struggle to provide, to maintain, to keep your house from crumbling, to ensure your family's future, all while upholding the expensive, demanding expectations of knighthood. The sword may win battles, but it's the numbers, the land, the carefully managed resources that truly sustain your world, that give meaning to your rank. The problem isn't that you don't carry a sword. It's that your life is defined by a silent, unyielding war of numbers, a relentless tally that can doom you far more certainly than any enemy blade. This ledger, you realize, is your true, most unforgiving weapon. The stale air of the scriptorium, heavy with parchment and the faint, acrid tang of cheap ink, presses down on you. You run a clammy hand across the rows of figures in the ledger, the numbers blurring, shifting into an oppressive, unyielding wall. Your gut clenches with a cold, hollow ache that has become all too familiar, a constant companion since the harvest was poor and the Lord's demands remained as steep as ever. Each carefully inscribed digit feels less like a record and more like a chain, tightening around your very breath. You try to focus, to find some hidden surplus, some overlooked coin, but the balance remains stubbornly, terrifyingly, in the red. The quill in your hand, once a tool of meticulous reckoning, now feels impossibly heavy, a mere stick against the monumental weight of your obligations. You push away from the table, the wooden stool scraping harshly on the flagstones, the sound echoing too loudly in the quiet chamber. You pace a short path between the stacks of dusty scrolls, your boots thudding softly, each step a further measure of your trapped anxiety. Your mind races, a frantic, desperate search for solutions that aren't there. The debt isn't just a number. It's a living, breathing entity, coiling around your family, your land, threatening to swallow everything you've sworn to protect. It's colder than any winter wind, more relentless than any siege. You recall the pride of your family's banner, the strength of your arm in battle, the clear purpose of wielding steel against a visible foe. But this enemy cannot be struck down. It is insidious, a slow, draining force that eats away at your very foundations. You pass a young squire, polishing a helmet, his face bright with youthful enthusiasm, oblivious to the silent, invisible war being waged in the castle's quiet corners. He offers a respectful nod, and you manage a weak, tight smile in return, masking the churning dread beneath. The walls of your manor, once a symbol of security, now feel like a precarious house of cards, threatening to collapse with every shift in the market, every unexpected demand from your liege. You imagine the forfeiture, the loss, the ignominy of being stripped of your lands, your honor, your very identity. It's a terror more profound than any battlefield wound. This isn't about carrying a sword. It's about carrying the crushing weight of a future that hangs by a thread, dictated by cold, unforgiving numbers. The true problem, the real enemy, is this pervasive, suffocating grip of debt, an invisible burden that threatens to break you utterly. The cold, damp air in the great hall carries the familiar scent of wood smoke and stale ale, but today it's laced with a sharper, more metallic tang, a whisper of old iron and something else, a faint, visceral odor of age and raw power. You stand amongst the other knights, a line of steel and seasoned leather, your gaze drawn to the far end of the high table. There sits Lord Alaric, but he is diminished. His face, once firm and commanding, is now a roadmap of deep wrinkles, his skin a sallow gray, pulled taut over sharp cheekbones. His eyes, though still sharp, hold a flicker of weary, distant memories, like embers struggling in a dying fire. He coughs, a deep, rattling sound that seems to tear from his very chest, making him flinch. The sound echoes unnervingly in the sudden hush that falls over the hall. His hand, once a strong, commanding fist, trembles slightly as he lifts a goblet of wine, the silver clinking faintly against his teeth. You remember him on the field, a lion, a force of nature, his voice a roar that could rally a broken line. Now his commands are softer, his gestures slower, deliberate movements that betray the constant underlying struggle against the betrayal of his own body. He is an old wolf, his fangs still sharp, but his stamina fading, his coat thinning. You watch his personal squire, a young, nervous boy, hover constantly at his side, anticipating his needs, his gaze filled with a mixture of fear and profound concern. He quickly moves to adjust a heavy fur cloak around the lord's shoulders, a gesture not of ceremony but of necessity. The lord nods a brief, almost imperceptible acknowledgement, and a wave of weariness passes over his face like a shadow. This isn't the glorious aging of a warrior, the wisdom of a seasoned commander. This is the brutal, inevitable decay of the flesh, a slow surrender to the relentless march of time, a foe against whom no sword, no armor, no amount of courage can prevail. The hall, usually vibrant with noise, feels subdued, a collective holding of breath. Everyone watches him, not with the usual casual respect, but with a deep, unsettling awareness of his fragility. This isn't a political weakness or a tactical blunder. This is the raw, undeniable vulnerability of mortality itself. And with it, you feel a profound shift in the very ground beneath your feet, a subtle tremor in the foundations of your world. The stability you've known, built on his strength, his presence, feels suddenly precarious. The problem isn't that knights didn't carry swords. It's that even the strongest, the most formidable among them, are ultimately powerless against the insidious, silent enemy of old age, watching as the old wolf slowly fades, taking the strength of the pack with him. The crisp winter air, usually a sharp companion, is suddenly sliced by a sound you haven't truly appreciated since your training days. A dry, whispering whiz that cuts across the distance with alarming speed. It's an alien sound, one that bypasses the clang of steel or the thud of hooves, instead aiming for the fragile space between the chaos of battle and the seeming security of your armor. Before your mind can even fully register the threat, there's a sharp, jarring, some stunning whack against your chest plate, a brutal, focused impact that shudders through your entire armored frame, rattling your teeth and stealing your breath in a guttural gasp. The steel, meant to deflect, reverberates with the force, sending a dull ache through your sternum. You stumble, your horse shies, and for a terrifying instant, you're off balance, the immense weight of your armor threatening to pull you down. Your gauntleted hand instinctively goes to the impact point, feeling the solid, unyielding steel, but also the deep, unsettling vibration that still hums beneath your fingers. The arrow, a simple shaft of wood and feather, lies broken on the ground nearby its head, a crude but wickedly sharp piece of flint, glinting innocently in the weak sunlight. It had glanced off, yes, a testament to the strength of your armor, but the sheer, surprising force of it, the unexpected violence from such a distance, chills you more deeply than the winter wind. Your eyes, narrowed through the visor, snap to the distant tree line, a small, dark fringe against the gray sky. You see him, a solitary figure, barely visible, shrouded in rough, homespun clothes, his form indistinct. He's already knocking another arrow, his movements fluid, practiced, terrifying in their quiet, efficient menace. No shining heraldry, no battle-trained destrier, no expensive, master-crafted steel. Just a man, a simple peasant, with a length of bent wood and a string, standing 100 paces distant, and yet, for a moment he held your life, your very existence, in the span of his outstretched arm. A cold dread settles in your gut, far more potent than the fleeting pain of the impact. All your training, all your heavy armor, all your martial prowess, it means little against this kind of silent, unforgiving death from afar. Your sword, heavy and well-balanced, feels useless at your side, a relic from a different kind of war. This isn't a duel where skill and honor prevail. It's a brutal, impersonal exchange where a cheap, easily crafted missile can fell a king's finest knight. Your armor, once a symbol of invincibility, now feels like a cumbersome target, a highly visible, slow-moving monument to a bygone era, outmatched by a simple peasant's bow. It's a humbling, chilling realization that the very thing designed to protect you could not protect you from that. The faint, echoing whisper starts subtly, a sound almost swallowed by the cold, damp air of the castle's ancient crypt. It's not a voice, not exactly, but a resonant hum, a lingering vibration in the very stone, heavy with the scent of mildew, cold earth, and the dry, powdery dust of centuries. You shiver, despite the thick wool of your cloak, a prickle of unease raising the fine hairs on your arms. Your boots, usually heavy on the flagstones, feel unnervingly light, each step a soft scrape that seems to disappear into the profound silence. This isn't the familiar, comforting quiet of a chapel. It's the suffocating stillness of a place where time has slowed, almost stopped, where the past presses in with tangible weight. You move deeper into the shadowy vault, your torch casting, dancing, distorted shadows across the rows of stone sarcophagi. Each one is a silent testament to a life lived, a name now faded, a story lost to the grinding march of time. You run your gloved hand over the cold, rough-hewn surface of a tomb, feeling the intricate, weathered carvings of a family crest, a knight's effigy, his face stern, his sword clutched to his chest. His eyes, though carved of stone, seemed to stare into an abyss, a silent witness to countless generations passing. The faint echo, that soft hum, seems to emanate from these very walls, a collective sigh of forgotten lives, a profound, resonant memory etched into the unyielding rock. Your gaze lingers on the sword carved into the stone, its hilt worn smooth, its blade broken. It's a symbol, nothing more. The man who wielded it, the battles he fought, the triumphs, the defeats, all reduced to this cold, immutable image. You feel the weight of your own sword, still at your hip, a constant companion. It's a tool for the living, for the present, for the raw, brutal conflicts that define your world. But here, amidst the silent slumber of your ancestors, its purpose seems fleeting, its sharp edge dulled by the sheer, overwhelming permanence of death. What is a sword against this? Against the relentless, unstoppable march of time that reduces kings to dust and triumphs to whispers in the stone. The air feels heavier now, pressing down, a tangible weight of history and mortality. You touch the cold stone again, feeling the chill seep into your bones. The echo isn't just a sound. It's a feeling, a deep, unsettling truth that permeates this place. It's the whisper of generations, the undeniable reality of your own fleeting existence, a profound awareness of the vast, indifferent continuum of time. The problems you face, the wars you fight, the debts you tally, all seem small, transient, in the face of this ultimate, inescapable end. The problem isn't that you don't carry a sword. It's that even the mightiest sword cannot cut through the cold, echoing truth that awaits all, a truth carved silently into the unyielding heart of the stone itself. The air in the crypt still holds that profound, ancient chill, the scent of earth and dust. But now you find your gaze drawn not to the simple fact of death, but to the figures carved above the tombs. Your torchlight dances across an effigy, a knight sculpted in stone, lying in eternal repose. His face is serene, noble, untouched by the grime, the weariness, the fear you knew in life. His armor is perfect, pristine, every buckle and plate meticulously rendered, unblemished by rust or the dull impact of a mace. His sword, long and elegant, rests proudly at his side, its hilt gleaming, its blade unbroken, a symbol of unwavering strength. You trace the carved lines of his gauntleted hand, noting the perfect, unmarred knuckles, the absence of the thick calluses or scraped skin that were your constant companions. You remember the raw ache of your own hands after a day of mucking stables, the cramping after hours gripping a horse's reins, the jarring pain of a warhammer blow. This stone knight, however, knows none of that. His is a silent, idealized strength, a vision of chivalry unburdened by the brutal physical truth of existence. The very cold of the stone seems to reinforce this detachment, this eternal distance between the legend and the man. Around you, other effigies lie, their faces equally serene, their carved weapons eternally sharp. They stand for unwavering courage, for unyielding honor, for a glory that, in life, was often obscured by the smell of fear, the taste of mud, the crushing weight of exhaustion, and the bitter calculations of ransom. Their story, etched into the stone, is simple, heroic, devoid of the persistent itch of unwashed wool, the desperate gnaw of hunger, the subtle political dances, or the helpless despair against invisible plagues. The real problems, the ones you intimately knew, vanish in this transformation from flesh to marble, from moment to myth. You stand there, a living man amidst these silent, perfect heroes, and feel the phantom aches of your own body, the heavy reality of your still healing wound, the constant, dull thrum of fatigue in your bones. Your sword, still at your hip, feels like a simple, heavy tool, far from the gleaming symbol of valor immortalized in stone. It strikes you, a profound, almost melancholic understanding, that the true life of a knight, filled with its complex and glorious struggles, is rarely what endures. Instead, it's this simplified, beautiful, perfectly heroic image, free from all the inconvenient, messy truths, that becomes the legend. It's a strange thing, isn't it? To realize that the greatest battles you ever fought weren't with steel for glory, but with mud, hunger, cold, and quiet duty. Yet only the idealized, sword-wielding hero finds his lasting place in the quiet, echoing stone.